Board of Finance agenda, special meeting, Thursday, April 11th, 6 p.m. This meeting will be recorded and made available on the town's website pursuant to state law. If you're attending remotely, please remember to mute your microphone unless you are speaking. Anyone participating remotely should state their name and title if applicable at the outset of each occasion that such person is speaking. All votes taken during which any member of this body are participating remotely shall be taken by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. Chat feature will not be utilized nor considered during this meeting. We are called to order. Rebecca O'Donnell.
She's logging in.
Okay. Steve Kirsch.
Me?
Yes.
Present.
Samantha Spino.
Present.
Catherine Stauffer.
Present.
Nicholas Santorides. No Nick. Okay. Ram Banowski.
Present, Mike.
Heidi Mead.
Present.
There you go. Is First Selectman Terry Rooney there?
Yeah.
He is not.
No. Okay. All right. Rebecca, get dialed in, okay? Thanks, Frank. I can hear you. I can't see you. You're small on my phone. All right. So this is our next budget workshop. I know we have Chris Malecki. I think we probably start with him if that's okay with everyone.
Sure.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to start with Chris. Is that all right? Ready to go?
Sure. Casual sitting.
I was going to say it might be better for microphone purposes to, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Public Works Director, how are you? Hey, Chris. So Mike, you want to go first and then whatever you don't hit that I have?
Yeah, I didn't know if Chris wanted to say anything
Or unless
specific
Chris
or
wants.
just take questions or, you know. But I mean, the main focus I'm going to hit is obviously on roads, because that to me is, you know, obviously one of the biggest line items and also one of the bigger areas of contention that we always talk about. So specifically, I wanted to touch on one, the road report, but two, also what's our capacity? I know in the past years, you know, we've had a decent budget, but sometimes not been able to get everything done that we wanted to get done. Now we've gone to doing the drainage at the same time. So, you know, in an ideal world, how much could you do in this year?
Hello. So we are there as we have, and again, thank you for the funding that has been provided to us over the years. We are right there with this $2 million mark. And with us doing drainage in-house, anything more is outside of our bandwidth, outside of our capacity, and we will have to significantly involve contractors, surveyors. I mean, and at that point, you're looking at the significant like D-value of the actual money spent to production. So we are at our limit at this point. In staff, we're actually performing more work than really many other municipalities by doing drainage in-house. So we're very proud of what we're able to accomplish. So it's a good thing. Let's put it down.
So Chris, what about roads that don't necessarily need to have drainage done? Are we, and so I'm thinking of two things. I'm thinking of the roads that need basic maintenance done or preservation, or they just don't, you know, they don't necessarily have a drainage system that needs work. Can we do more of those, the things that are not limited by your folks?
Well, we are looking at the preservation side of things. We do our regular crack seal, which helps preserve the travelable surface, prevents the water intrusion. And we are looking at some preservation techniques to use here. So that's to answer that. Yes, we are focusing on that as well.
Okay, because that's what I, you know, there was, I don't think I brought this year's road report, but it was over 2 million of those first two layers of stuff right there, to say nothing of getting into the stuff with the base rehabilitation.
And the base rehab is part of our, you know, as I've been here for a number of years, that work is what we are doing for, you know, the future of Monroe. We have, we're establishing that for where we will be and presenting that for a durable foundation, good drainage, and a good surface, something we can then work with. So we try to do a little bit of everything. We want to do preservation, but also we kind of want to get our low candidate roads, our low PCI roads up into a manageable position and, you know, kind of spread the wealth. Biggest bang for the buck is doing the drainage. Going from there, we will eventually get to a point where we can do more preservation. But right now we have a good amount of, you know, base drainage that we need to complete and get done. Any questions?
Aren't you, I remember last year you said that as you're working on roads, you have a scope that you put down to kind of see how everything looks, to see if any work actually needs to be done.
Correct.
Am I correct in remembering?
It's a camera.
Yeah.
technically, But yeah, it's got a cart. We can
Mhm.
drive it through the pipes, inspect, pan pictures,
Okay.
locate it. Yeah, it's a,
So as you've been doing that, are you finding that many of the spots you're looking at need to be repaired, or are you finding that things are in pretty good shape?
we actually are finding that they do need to be repaired.
Okay,
So which
all
is
right.
part of the benefit. And again, the Board of Finance and Council got us that
Mhm,
because the last thing we want to do is spend a significant amount of money
mhm.
and then have to, you know, dig the road up again.
Yeah,
We've been there and that's not what we want to do.
okay,
It's not proper, you know, diligence behind the money spent for the
Mhm.
residents. So,
okay, thank you.
yeah.
So how many more miles of road do we have to inspect?
I couldn't give you a hard number, but a good amount. We target the roads that we have listed as candidates. We inspect those, we repair where we need to. And a majority of our roads are at the point where they need multiple levels of maintenance, whether it's just the structures being replaced, the pipes necessity as well. So it's a lot. I know we've talked about in the past doing a full and complete drainage study, and that's just a monumental undertaking and a significant amount of money that the town we've discussed. It's just, you know, cost prohibitive.
So why can't we dedicate some folks for a season like this year to go out and scope every road, get that done, and get all of the costs associated with every road done, so that if we then we would know what we have.
Yeah, you won't be able to complete that in a year. It's 100 miles of road. There's no way that'll happen in 1 year.
And we've been working on it.
Staff.
I think you've said before, we've been working on scoping roads since 2014.
Correct. So that's 5 miles in 10 years. That's 50 miles.
How long would it take our guys to,
How long does it take to scope 1 mile of road?
1 mile of road is probably easily, I mean, depending on what we have, we can't even necessarily camera the entire drainage system in and of itself.
Mhm.
And it really depends on how much drainage is actually in the road.
Mhm.
Some have more, some have less, some have, you know, like our dirt roads are virtually none. We're not doing that, but it really just depends on what our infrastructure is underneath the road. I can't give you a hard date of how long it will take. It depends on what's in the road.
Okay, so if what if it's like 111 and you're scoping that? Like that's like,
Well, we wouldn't, but that's because that's DOT.
oh, okay, yeah.
it's state?
111, 25, 59.
Mhm.
such.
Anything with a number.
So, it's a significant undertaking. It's just not feasible with our staff to look at trying to do that. They do that. We will inspect. We will also go look at where we have issues outside of the road work that we're doing. If we find something in our resident reports. We've had multiple contractors come in and speak to prior to your time and such that it, you know, although a great idea, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars, very time consuming. It's just not something that many communities will do,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So when you say we're pretty well at our maximum now, what do we have to do besides money to raise our capability to do more miles in a year?
It's money.
Is it just money?
No, depending on how you want to do it. I mean, if we went out for contractors, like I said before, you'd have to have a bid package to give to a contractor in order to be able to go out and solicit that work to be done. Tied and coupled with that will be full detailed survey, mapping, design plans, and such like that. And on top of that, you're going to get compounded on top of that, you're going to see a significant increase. We had a contractor in previously, we were in the area of $4,000 cost increase relative to a mile of road because of where we were. Now we're taking on that drainage, repair, and replacement, upon ourselves to do that. So it's all about money, really, at the end of the day, is what it is.
So with doing it, and I'm sorry, with doing everything in-house, which is what I understand that you're doing, do you have all the, do you have the equipment that is necessary?
So far, yeah, I mean, it had been brought up previously, we're looking at to replace our camera and stuff, just due to, years and maintenance and things of that sort, but, I mean, my deputy's here, correct me if I'm wrong, we're very well equipped. to-
Okay.
It's a labor issue for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that too, and you wanted to go into more crew, when you look into the more crew, that's almost also cost prohibitive as well, because you're doubling, I need more, that's a significant undertaking. We need the machines, we need the trucks, we need the folks as well, and then you also look into salaries, bennies and all that. It's a larger discussion than just, adding a few people.
So how,
Go ahead.
so how many days of a year are they spending scoping?
We basically, our construction season is roughly, weather permitting, we're looking at about 5 months a year. And that person isn't just solely dedicated to that. It depends on if we have, a couple of guys out or what have you, but he's predominantly our camera guy.
So you have a guy who, barring other things that may end up being more important, that's basically his full-time job to go.
Predominantly, I mean, he's probably about 60% of his job is to do that. Yeah.
And so you're saying that basically based on the staffing that you have, it's right-sized for the amount of equipment you have. It's not like you have, not enough people to use the equipment you currently have.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are staffed appropriately. I mean, and it's also in other functions as well. We look at our snow plowing activities or storm response, bulky waste. So it's just all of the activities and the services we provide. We're adequately staffed at this time.
Okay.
I mean, future care, discussions and things like that. Absolutely. I'm not saying that that's not where we want to go, but it's a more involved question and analysis than just thinking you're going to get, more productivity right away. There's a significant investment to get into that.
So when VHB says in their report that if we spent $3.5 million or $3.6 million a year for 5 years, we would get to an average of 85 PCI. We can't do that because it isn't the money that's stopping us from doing that many miles of road.
Well, what it is it's when they look at that, they're also not, and they had said it multiple times in all the reports, they're not looking at the drainage. If we were just looking at doing roads with bar none, anything else.
That's right.
That would, based on their projections, okay, I'm not gonna, discredit an engineer, but at that point, we're building we're building the foundation for our roads. We're building the foundation. We hope that we don't have issues as we go, and sometimes we do. But that right there that's a significant undertaking. Was not coupled into their analysis.
Right, because I asked that question when they did the presentation in early 2019, when they presented the 2018 study. And I said, was any of the storm stuff and the drainage included? And they said no. And so
Right.
I'm assuming it's still not included. Problem that I have is that report gives you a false sense of possibility, because there's absolutely, just in case I haven't said it this year yet, no question we need to scope the storm drains, no question we need to get those done before you touch the road surface. I've supported you in that for 10 years now. The problem that I have is we're being limited to hitting the asphalt because of the storm drain issue, whether it's the scoping labor, whether it was during COVID and stuff with supply of materials, obviously out of your control. I just think we've got to find a way, and if that means spending some amount of money to have, somebody come in and do some number of miles of road to augment your staff. Until we deal with that, I'm just going to be bothered and bothered and bothered because it is holding us back. Because we could give you all the money in the world. We could go bond $10 million and you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So I think that's a problem that we have got to solve.
Is,
Go ahead.
sorry, is manpower an issue?
Not currently. The bigger issue is we aren't the only department and function that the town has to provide. You obviously have the Board of Education as a component of it, but you also have all the other departments and all the other capital
I understand that.
expenditures. So that's where, the comfort of the town, the Board of Finance, Town Council, there's a set number, right? That fits with, obligations that come off that they want to accept. So, I'm very thankful that we get the plethora of money.
Okay, but for the goals that I think you're talking about here is, would something like additional manpower, a sub, would something like that help with the goals that I think Steve is mentioning? And I understand that, Public Works is not the only department in town, but we're talking about a road study that's been of concern and the roads for a long time. So
And they will be.
I
It's going to be,
understand.
it's a continual asset that will have to be funded annually. It's
Of course.
it's one of the fixed assets that the town has, but the issue isn't so much the staffing, it's just when you look to go outside of the department, your spend and your recoup on that, the additional cost, I don't think is being understood, because if you, another million or more, you're looking at potentially 40 to 50% of that going to funding the plans, the contractor and everything like that. So it's not just a simple extra million, you think that that's a good substantial amount of money. There's more involved.
No, I'm saying helping on the jobs that you are doing. So if you do one 2 mile stretch of road, right? Let's just say for fun. Would it help if you had 5 more guys just on that job? That's it, just for however long that takes you. Would that help with the process?
We are staffed appropriately as we are.
No, I'm not asking if about hiring more people. I'm just asking independent contractors.
Well, that's where you're gonna start losing money because of the cost, the additional cost to put them on and not recoup the benefit from it. That's all.
Well, what if we were to, I'm making this up because we're not going to be doing this, but like say we give you $5 million. So you have $5 million extra dollars to spend for the next fiscal year. What would you do with it? Like, how would you
Could you
plan
just-
on using it? Like,
We would have to go out and get design plans in order to have a bid package put together. And part of that would be some of the initial work to scope and do everything that we're doing. But then when you get that money, the return of benefit on it isn't going to be where we're looking at the moment.
so you would get the study and that's like a one-time, that's like not an ongoing cost, that's like a one-time
one-time
cost. And then the
study.
ongoing cost is like the,
Well, it would be ongoing because then the next clump of money the same efforts would need to be.
Yeah, but she's saying once you get through it, you're through it.
yeah, it's not like you do your plan and then you're like, okay, I've got my plan for my project. Now we execute.
If we could snap our
right?
fingers and you scope all the roads tomorrow morning, we're not going to go back and be scoping roads for another 20 years. Right? And I think what you're hearing up here, and I think actually from Mike's initial question, and I'm not going to speak for anybody. I shouldn't speak for anybody else.
You can speak for me. You know where I'm at on this.
Well,
We all cards on the table.
okay.
We spoke before this.
I will
meeting.
speak for Mike. 'Cause Mike and I have had a number of conversations. I think there is an appetite from some of us to find ways to increase the funding for roads. Understanding that, yes, some of those are going to go to prerequisite things, mundane things, not asphalt on the ground, not curbs, but they are necessary prereqs, and I don't think there's any argument. And I don't think we should be looking at this as it has been historically, and you've had no choice, as we're limited to just this amount of money. The question has to be, what would happen if we did give you more money? Could you use it? What would that do in terms of speeding up or, allowing you to do more miles of either preventative kind of stuff or base reconstruction or whatever? I think there's an appetite to find ways to put some more dollars into roads. And
100%. 100%. No, I think that's perfect. No, I mean, again, like, Steve and I have been talking, and one of the things I was thinking is like, yeah, if we were, instead of, doing what we were $1 million bonding and the whatever we have in the budget now, which I think is in the 6 range, and then using town aid roads. I mean, if we just said, hey, you're going to get $2.5 million for the next 3 years or $3 million for the next 3 years, could you productively accomplish what we want to accomplish?
And yes, that might mean going out and hiring.
I mean, it will.
A contract.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, that's the right answer. I mean, to me, that's the fair answer, right? You can't do it in-house. You've tried to do it in-house. You can only do so much in-house. Got it. Understood. That means, like for any other thing that we hire contractors for, we're going to spend money on contractors, but we're going to get some result that's going to let us provide some other value down the road. So
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, we understand that in-house you can only spend X amount of dollars, but we would like to see quicker results. And if that means sacrificing, a portion of, or paying a little extra to get it done quicker, I think there's an opening to do that. Or to me, my frustration is, 10 years ago, we were talking about spending $2 million a year. We did it sometimes we didn't. And we really haven't achieved as much as I had hoped we would have achieved. And it's not blaming anyone. It's just the reality of situations and the drainage and all the other things. But we want to find a solution that gets us progress, certainly in the next 3 to 5 years. And I don't think leaving it the way we've been doing it is going to get us there. I think in 3 to 5 years, if we fund it the way we're funding it, we're going to be in the same place in 3 or 5 years, with some roads that are better and some roads that are worse again.
Mhm.
My humble opinion.
So I
I don't think we're moving the needle.
Yeah, so Mike, I've got a couple of questions, more for Chris. One's going to be on the technical side, and one is, I need you to address something that the first selectman said at our meeting last week. He made a comment to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he asked you all, I'm not sure whether you or Bill, what it costs to do a mile of road, and his statement was it was $900,000 a mile. That's a number
I
that
can answer that if you don't mind me, John.
I would love whoever can answer
I
it.
said that in the worst case scenario, that was a worst case scenario situation, so.
Can you really- can-
understand. So that was like if the road is shot and we have to do a lot of P&L, which is when we come in and first put the, to
The
make
base.
it true and leveling,
Yeah,
so to speak, and then we come in and put the 4 inches down. So that was worst case scenario.
and does that include drainage?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's the explanation I was looking at, and he wasn't able to give it because he
Yes,
wasn't.
it includes, it's soup to nuts. 100%.
Soup to nuts, because that's high,
Yes,
as
it's
you're well aware, it's higher than anything that we've ever
Yes,
been quoted.
that was worst case scenario, like I said, that's usually what I do. I'll give you worst case scenario, because if I give you best case scenario,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the takeaway can't be every road's gonna cost us $900,000 a mile.
I don't know.
And that's in-house?
I like it.
Well.
Is that an in-house figure, the 900,000, or that if you were
Well,
like, worst case, we were getting
That's
contractors?
dig everything up.
Okay.
Drainage in-house, and we contract out the paving.
Gotcha, okay,
So that would be a contracted paving company coming in and doing the paving.
okay.
That's like, look what they just did to Pepper Street, where they tore the whole thing up down to the, sub base and built it all up and put the drainage in and do the whole thing
And
and.
that's a significant amount of work compared, so I don't think that's gonna be 900, but absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Yes, that's.
Most of the stuff we're talking about is milling off of a layer or two and redo.
I'd be a paving contractor.
Yeah,
That's-
okay. My last question is a little, I think my last question is a little bit harder. In the study from 2022,
Mhm.
in the table of the number of miles in the dollar backlog,
Mhm.
okay? We went from having, in 2018 study, almost 18 miles that needed base rehabilitation to 5.8 miles that they said needed base rehabilitation. And I can't get my hands around that because we've been carrying, 37, 21, 18, and all of a sudden we've dropped down to only needing 5.8 miles of base rehabilitation. And I don't believe in the last 4 years between the 18 and 22 study that you did 12 and a half miles of base rehabilitation.
We're averaging 5, 18 in 6 years. We're doing about 4 to 5 miles a year.
Base rehabilitation.
But predominantly, yeah. What I'll do is I'll have to look into that.
Okay. That,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, and I can send you the, my side by
Yeah,
side
sure.
table. I'm
Yep.
happy to do that.
I don't mind.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So the base rehabilitation, Steve, is basically full depth restoration. So we're going down much like you did see Pepper Street. We're not needing to do that. That's really not needed on the roads we're paving. So we look at it, VHB gives us that. And we've kind of talked to Gordon Daring, who's the gentleman that came here and did the VHB stuff.
Okay.
And we said, we're not really looking to do that. That's not what we're looking for him to tell us. So I think maybe he adjusted that a little bit with that, because full depth restoration is
Significant.
definitely significant, and you don't get, you want to talk about spending money, and if you got $1 million, $1.3 million maybe a road to do
Yeah.
per mile, there you go, we'll do it. But it's not needed, and we've proven that within the last 10 years. I know you guys are looking for more quicker results, but in the road paving world, in the road rebuilding world and doing this stuff, where we've gone with our PCI in the last 8 years is amazing. It's really amazing. If you look at other towns and you look at other municipalities that do this, to go from a 63 to a 76, 77, it's insane. It's really amazing. And not that I'm trying to say not to do it, or, what you're saying isn't right. Yes, if I throw $20 million at something, I can do anything. But you have to have a balance. We have 143 miles of road in this town. I think our road rating shows that what you guys have given us is working.
Absolutely.
It's working well. And we're doing it with the most bang for our buck. The most bang for our buck. We're doing in-house drainage. Our highway maintenance is basically doing construction. They're taking out the old pipe that we find bad and putting new in for every road we pave. Now, Steve, you spoke to, maybe we could pave roads that the drainage isn't bad on. Well, that's not really the way it works. There's not a lot of roads out there that don't have drainage in them. So,
I mean, even drainage that wasn't in need of repair.
well, you gotta understand, most of the drainage in this town has been done, there is some concrete pipe, don't get me wrong, but most of the drainage is asphalt coated, corrugated metal pipe, put back in the 70s, was the greatest thing in the world in the 70s. This is great. We don't have to use machines, we can lift it up, 20-foot lengths, hey, this is great. Well, all of that is rotting now throughout the country. Anywhere it's been put in, it's rotting.
Yeah.
And it's falling apart. And this is not a big problem for just Monroe, it's a big problem for the eastern seaboard.
But you just said most. I think I heard you say most of our roads have that pipe.
Because
I
there's
thought,
some roads
I thought
that
you had said in the past, it wasn't most of our roads
have what?
that have the corrugated,
No, that's the majority.
Oh, that's the majority.
That's what we're.
Corrugate,
the metal,
the metal pipe.
whatever you want to call
The concrete pipe
Right.
was way back before the 70s. Now, some of the roads, I can't speak to it, but we find combination. We find some concrete pipe, we find some metal pipe. I can't tell you why it's like that, but it is.
That's a
And
lot.
all the concrete pipe is okay. And for the most part, it's not bad. Some of the joints have gone bad, so then we change it. And all the metal pipe we're finding is falling apart. Where the water runs, you know, it's called the invert. There isn't any anymore.
Just rots out.
It's gone.
Yeah, and you said that, and I agree completely. I guess I thought there were sets of roads that wouldn't have drainage problems based on what I thought I was hearing previously. And I'll just use I'm just gonna keep using my road because I know everything on the top of my road, because I know exactly when it was built, 1992. The road is now a 51. I think it's probably lower than that, but that's a different question. I would hope that a road built that late doesn't have any drainage problem. But I guess what I'm hearing is even that road has to be scoped before you really.
Oh, absolutely. We wouldn't do anything. We had a road.
Okay.
Cup
Okay.
Farm, we did that road and we lost a cross trench,
Yes,
like within a week after paving it.
I remember.
The word, yeah, you know, that was the
I
last
remember.
thing we wanted to do. And when we even worked out on Turkey Roost, that's when we actually brought folks out and that's how we got into the camera so that we can't do this anymore.
And
Okay.
like my street, like the developments happen at different times.
Yeah.
Some are built in the
Correct.
seventies, some in the nineties, some in the 2000s. So you have like, and it's just a T with like 20 houses on it. So
Yeah.
it's, but
Yeah.
we still have a lot of, you're
Yeah.
probably gonna get a lot of differences. in
That's
it.
why, I mean, that's why I use my road, because I was one of the first homes to move in.
Mhm.
It's 1,000 feet long. You know, and the pavement's been declining.
Mhm.
And I made an assumption based on prior conversation that being built as late as it was, that it wasn't gonna have these kinds of issues.
We wished it worked that way, but it's not.
When was your road built? What'd you say? I mean, I'm sorry, Steve, when was your road built?
It's in 92.
92? So 92, so what do you got?
It's 30.
35 years, 33 years?
Okay,
You know what the average length of asphalt is?
12 maybe-ish.
Realistically, yeah.
Well, again,
And the product.
so it depends how it was built and it depends what the traffic load is. So, I mean, I just read an article, you know, that the Connecticut Department of Transportation is going to use a new mix on 95, you know, between exits 4 and whatever, that has never been used in Connecticut. It's more expensive, but it's supposed to last the road between 10 and 15 years. Well, if they can get 10 and 15 to 15 years on 95, if I use that same mix here on a side street.
We are using, it. We're using Super Pave here.
Yeah, we're using what DOT used.
So, and Super Pave was supposed to be the end all be all for when they put it out 10 years ago. Super Pave was the way to go. So now we have another one.
Yeah, and something.
And all they're gonna do is put more or less wrap in it and be done. And that's, they're gonna say it's better.
Okay.
What happens? It's constantly evolving. We're always coming out with new things.
Well, yeah, and there's new mixes and there's all sorts of.
But that's a good segue because I have a question. Do you have the same process for every road that you do? Or do you reclaim some? Do you chip
Yes.
seal some?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Multiple processes. Depends on, you know, we use that when we excavate, we do the work for the drainage.
Mhm.
We use that as an exploratory kind of session to see how thick our asphalt is.
Yeah.
What is it that we're dealing with? But then also too, we look at the cross profile of the road.
Mhm.
Bill was saying earlier, a true and level course. So we want to have a uniform cross profile. So the water gets to the shoulders and we have a uniform travelable way. Those are components we look at.
Mhm.
Some roads will just chip. And we'll, whether it's chip stone or rubber chip, some we just need to crack seal. Some are actually in really good shape, we'll crack seal. And we'll put like a Hyma on it or a Cape seal. There's multiple options. We're not opposed to really any of them. We just know that there's the
Pick the right one for the right road.
road.
So,
You get a high volume road, you can't use certain things.
so for that 5 miles that you did last year, was that 5 miles of individual scenario roads like you just listed? Or is that 5 miles of repave?
Last year was 5 miles of repave. Before that though, we have used Haima, we've used the Cape Seal, it just depends on what our cluster of road is.
Yeah.
When we get our logistics together, what does this look like, right?
Okay,
How many miles?
Yep.
That's kind of predicates where we are and what we do.
okay, thank you.
Two technical questions. Number one, is it basically true that once a road starts declining it picks up and continues to decline at that rate or faster rate? Is that generally
It
true?
depends. Okay, so it depends on what's declining in the road. Is it your drainage is declining? Is it the fact the road is raveling, alligatoring, delaminating? There's a lot of different areas that you have to look at. A road could alligator and stay like that for 5, 6, 7 years.
What does alligator mean?
You ever see the little, it looks like puzzle pieces?
Mm-hmm.
That's alligator. It looks like the alligator skin.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that's, they call it alligator. Raveling is like when you see like pieces of it, like the road is still there, but there's
Stone is
pieces
coming
coming off and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then delam is just when,
The top
pieces
pieces come from the bottom.
Right.
The
So,
second quarter.
so like I said, you can have, Steve, so I'd like to say there's probably a real science behind it, but you have to look at each road individual. Sometimes it's just the asphalt, the way it's been put down 10 years ago. And that batch wasn't just perfect. I mean, I've seen it happen on many roads.
And I'll talk to you about a road in a minute on that. The reason I asked, going back to my road, I was surprised.
I'm paving Applegate next week.
You should have done it when you did Garter and Pepper, but that's
No, hold on, time out. There's a whole lot going on there.
Stop bringing up Pepper, okay? This is a whole different.
Oh, hey,
PTSD.
I haven't even started with Pepper. You know my feeling about that. And anyway, seriously. Between 2010 and 2014, Applegate declined by 4% in terms of PCI. 3 points. It dropped 12 points in the next 4 years, and then it dropped only 2 points in the last 4 years. That seems weird to me. Going to the 2022 study being weird.
So,
Did I address this one?
sure.
Sure, you gotta go. Take me.
Being someone that did road ratings, okay, in my previous life, okay, in the old country, in the old country. So let's just count it 38 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I did road ratings. It was part of my job. And the way you do a road rating, okay, you just don't, like I say, go out there and look at a road and go, 73. You have a book, you take sections of the road, not the whole road, there's sections, and you rate that section. So let's say a road like yours, it might be 2 sections of road, maybe 3. So you look at the sections, hopefully you get the worst case scenario, which you don't always want the worst case scenario, because that doesn't give a good
Average.
a look at the road. So you look at it and you rate it, and then you drop off the highest, drop off the lowest, and you average out the middle. So in your road case now, so I'm throwing the human factor in there. Depending on who looked at that road and when they looked at it, VHB, I'm 100% sure didn't use the same exact people.
Right.
All the time. So you might look at it one way, might look at 2 different ways. So you're getting different things. Now, am I saying that the road rating is all over the place? No. But there is,
But we know we had a problem with
Yeah,
22.
yes, we did. And I just don't want to get into that problem. But I can tell you now, VHB is not the next road rating company we're using. Chris and I both agree with that.
Oh, good. We can have that conversation, not at this meeting.
Well, I'm just saying, that's some things that I know you want to hear, so.
Well, yeah, I'd like to hear you all talk about whether or not you would think about using a company that does vehicles with cameras and sensors and.
Well, the only,
that-
there's a whole.
Which is what the
There's a
guy
whole,
from
there's a whole
VHB.
level that we don't,
That's not a,
you get lost in that because there's AI capabilities.
Yes.
Can't so.
well, that's what the guy from VHB actually said,
Yeah,
last
we
year.
prefer the boots on the ground at this point until that technology is proven or something, because there's like he says, it's a weighted average. when you just rely on a camera vision, you don't see the whole picture. You can't see it from that type of video analysis. It's available. We've looked at it over all the years. It's just not, even talking to other communities, we're not there yet to accept.
I can be quite honest with you, the county of Westchester did use VHB's camera. I mean, we did buy the video of all the roads. If we used it 4 times, I mean, that's what it's good for. It was good for maybe there was an accident out there and they said there was no traffic signal or whatever like that. And that's what it's good for. As far as rating the roads, it really isn't good for that. We have now the technology we have now. Now, what Gordon was talking about was now, I'm talking about then, and I still don't really see or feel comfortable with it. I like somebody going out there and physically looking at the roads, and that's the best way to do it. Sometimes the old way is the good one.
And so one of the things I think you had mentioned was like different people, but not just different people, like different people can look at different sections of the road in different years. So if I have.
In the same section, you try to do it the same
Keep the
section.
segments
So
together.
that's like recorded, so you're still looking at like, did I see decline in this little, piece of Applegate or whatever that we're looking at? So that way you're at least doing apples to apples year over year.
Yes.
And that's in the report, like.
But it is still judgment
Yes,
based.
it's subject.
So
It's always
it's,
subjective.
it's on a
And you'll
spectrum
see
and it's
that, yeah,
broad
you'll see that.
ratings.
Absolutely.
That makes
It's not like
sense.
what you've been looking at puts it into a completely different classification or called treatment band.
Mhm.
You're floating amongst within.
I'm floating very close. I just expected it,
An applicant?
given how far it went down, I expected it to go down further, but again, we know that it was misclassified.
Yeah, but it also too, you have different winters where not
Understood, but nothing's been.
plowing,
done,
the
right?
material, whatever have you, yeah. So, okay. we get
What do you guys do in terms of analyzing roads that we've already done to see how they're holding up? I know that I notified you last August when a couple of citizens got a hold of me and asked about Wheeler Road.
Mhm.
And Wheeler Road, as I now found out, was done in 2012, the whole thing. And the east part of 111, from the town line up to one, is in much better shape than the west side of 111, from 111 to Henry. And yes, they were done with different kinds of treatments in different areas. That road's broken into some huge number of sections, 6 or 8 or something, I think it is. And those sections were done differently in 2012. But the fact that everything on the east side of 111 has held up much better than everything on the west side alone. Do you analyze any of that? Do you just happen to, do you do any kind of looking now that we have 4 studies over, a 14-year period?
Well, we do look at that, like when you and I had spoken on that. We know that that's a flatter section of road. We have lesser drainage that's in that section as well. And sometimes what kind of canopy do we have over it and such like that all affect, like you were speaking of how that kind of the descending side of the bell curve, does it progress or slope off at the same time? So yes, we do look at that. And some of the preservation techniques that we've discussed and or options that we have available, we are looking to potentially apply them, but also, does it fit? Would that have prevented any of the other issues? And if not, now that, we have our engineer in-house on our team now in the sense of the department, if we need to, we'll have, bigger eyes put on it from a different perspective and maybe look at a different design.
And I think one of my concerns, it gets back to, can we get some more money and get some stuff done? Is I'm now seeing roads that we've done once, and the Wheeler's an example, that now need something else done, and we haven't gotten through.
And you're gonna see that.
50%.
You have to be able to swallow that because it's gonna happen, fortunately.
Oh, you gotta realize the traffic count on the roads,
Yeah.
Steve.
It's a huge cost to get to 111.
The traffic counts on the road have a lot to do with it. The vehicles beating on the roads, like we were saying, preservation.
Right.
So, there's rubber chip seal, there's Hyma, the stuff that we use. Much like, I don't know if you guys have ever been up there, but up in the Horses, off of Hammertown Road, we did a whole,
Clydesdale, Pinto.
yeah, all of those roads up there. We did a whole preservation up there, and it's still holding up nice. Why? There's not a lot of traffic after that.
Right application,
And
right?
that's it. Wheeler gets a lot of traffic on it and it gets trucks and people are using it. So those roads get beat up more. Your through roads, Fan Hill Road, Wheeler Road, Elm Street, Moose Hill. Well, Moose Hill we paved 9 years ago and it's holding up fairly well. You know, these are the roads that you look at, Cutler's Farm. These are roads that trucks go on, oil trucks, concrete trucks, cars. So those roads, you can't expect to get,
It's long life.
you know, like I think Wheeler, if you said it was done in 2012. Okay, so 2012, that's 12 years. I mean, yeah, it's ready.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
We'd love to tell you, you're gonna get 20 years out of asphalt, but that's not.
If we
right.
pave your road,
Answer.
you'll probably get 22 years out of your road because there's not a lot of traffic on it.
Mhm.
And the other thing is the hauling trucks, the garbage trucks too.
Yeah, I mean, I get concerned when I look at something like Wheeler, not that hasn't lived its life, but, you know, is there something structurally different, right? Is maybe that west side.
Yeah, 2012.
Maybe that west side needed, you know, a base rehabilitation and give you the structure
It's not
underneath.
showing base rehab.
Okay, maybe it is. I don't know.
It's showing asphalt failure is what it's showing.
Right.
And the reason is 2012, you were using Class A concrete. I mean, you were using Marshall mix. They've done away with the Marshall mix. Now they're with the super pave and that's a stronger asphalt, so to speak.
Okay. All right, well, I think I know where, you know, I think I'm back to where I've been for a couple of years. We need to get through the drainage study, not just to be able to then decide whether we have more roads that we can then go tackle because they don't need drainage, but we need to know how much of the cost that we're doing, because you, Chris, I think it was you a couple of years ago that said when you're estimating costs for drainage replacement, you were using 30% of whatever the asphalt cost was. Well, I mean, that's fine, but it means when we're budgeting, you know, $1 million or $2 million, whatever it is, that's inclusive of pipe, which means I'm not doing those miles of that. Those are not surface asphalt. And I you know, want to put more into surface asphalt. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Thank you guys for everything. I do appreciate it. I do.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will talk to you because, you know, I'm sorry. No, it's just, everybody
What about
else.
recycling?
I'm gonna shut up. Oh, yeah.
So I thought I would move on to something
Not
else.
roads.
Not roads, right? Just so in here, we're showing that the contract rates and unit increase, everything's increased basically. So I guess I wanted to kind of have you guys talk a little bit about that contract. How long it's for, like just some details, because the costs have been rising year over year, which, you know, happens, but I just wanted to kind of speak a little bit to that.
So you're talking about the 7134 in the detail there, where it shows on the left side,
Yeah.
the X number. So we have a contract with RWS, okay? Started in 14, original term was till 21. We renegotiated per the terms of the existing contract and we re-upped that in 20, which will go till 2030. And at that point, we have a call out of a progressive cost increase within the contract for every year. So that rate you see per household is per contract.
Gotcha.
The number that will rise, the 7134, is our annual number of residential facilities on the books. So as we develop, that number goes up, therefore there's cost increase because the contractors have to perform more work.
Okay,
That's all.
that makes sense. Okay, so locked until 2030. Love it.
Yep. And those.
I mean, that's what it is what
are
it is, right?
typical where we are for those types of contracts. We're part of an interlocal for recycling and for solid waste. So we're part of 11 other towns, you know, commodity scale, if you will. And typically those contracts are for long terms. You don't want to renegotiate every year, and it's definitely not something we want to go out with on the larger scale. We don't want to, we don't have enough to bring to the table to really get a feasible appetite for, or cost, I should say. So, but that's where we are for recycling.
Gotcha.
Anything else?
I just wanted to understand that, that's all, so I'm good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, Mike.
And I will talk to you about Pepper Street one of these. Phil just gave me a nasty look.
You need
Actually,
a
I'm
drink
gonna
in your
talk-
hand then.
I'm gonna talk to you about the corner of Pepper and Garter, but that's before I get killed out there.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
We will talk about this.
Okay. So, Mike, we've got Kim, Social Services here. Come on down. Since I was the one that asked for him to come.
Feel free.
Yeah, so, I think I said it on Thursday night, but, last week at our meeting, I was at the town council budget workshop. It was held over here in the annex. And when Kim was speaking, she started talking about the need or the amount of work that, one of the social workers has in part-time hours and is working more than that. It's news to me. I'll be honest right off the bat. This is not a department that I've, know a lot about, paid a lot of attention to. So I have a number of questions. And I just like to sort of go down and have you address them if you would. The first thing that I think has to be understood, because the first selectman has made this point both in our meeting and at the town council actual meeting where they approved their budget, the town's budget. It said, the question is basically, if more hours are needed, why were they not asked for during the submission to the first selectman? Was there a reason that brought up?
Fair question. First of all, my name is Kimberly Cassia. Nice to meet you all. I'm Director of Community and Social Services for the town of Monroe. And just to give you a little heads up, I run 2 buildings and have 10 staff. So the social services is one of the departments that's under me. To be brutally honest, I've only been a department head for 2 years. When I did ask about how do I get extra staff, I was told, and this goes back to when I first did my first budget, that you had to figure out where you're getting the money from. And I, thought I'm never going to get anybody because I don't know how I'm going to get money. Unfortunately, I'm not a department that makes money, but I'm a department that keeps people in this town and helps them stay in their homes and gets them services so they have some extra money to do things. And that's all through the different programs and services that we can help the residents of this town to get involved in and to do. So, and I believe I made a comment this year, and I don't believe Selectman Rooney was in the room when I did, and I just got a blank stare. So now that I know that I can put it in the budget, you guys all help me find the money from what I was told, then I will do that. So I apologize to Selectman Rooney for putting him on the spot, but when I was asked the question, would I benefit from extra, from full-time staffing? Absolutely. The social worker in this town does a lot for the residents of this town. And I'm sorry I missed your point of that question.
No, I just wanted to know why, why it wasn't included.
Oh, okay.
Up front, because
And
that seemed to be the response at the town council's workshop, the reaction. It certainly was when they had their formal meeting here, and then he made the statement again in our budget workshop last Thursday. So I was just trying to get the backstory on that. So I have literally 10 questions. How many hours is the social worker paid to work weekly?
Our social worker for the town is paid to work for 29 hours.
And what, 30, is 32 considered full-time?
I believe if she goes up one more hour, then she gets benefits, but 35 hours per week is what most normal, I believe, employees work in the town. So a full-time position is 35 hours a week.
That would be the.
But there's something with the unions about, you know, if she got that extra hour, she would be entitled to other benefits.
I mean, HR isn't here to answer that. I believe that may be, I don't know if that's state law or.
Yeah,
There is something with it, with working, if you hit a certain number of hours a week, then you would be considered full-time, even if, you know, you just do it.
right.
It's
and
like an
I-
average
Yeah.
over the year. So it's not like 1 week she happens to work 40 hours. It's going to matter as long as she's keeping it lower for the rest of the, keeping that average down at the 29 hours a week.
So do you happen to know on average how many she is working, since she's obviously working, since it's been stated she's working more than 29 hours?
She works between 32 up to about 34 hours a week.
Consistently.
Yes. Unfortunately, you know, she's been not putting in for all those hours.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Okay. What's the educational requirement for her position?
Back in, I'm gonna look at my notes, when they, I think it was about a year ago, might be able to help me with this. Mary Ann was at whatever the lower one was. She got her licensed clinical social worker degree, and that needs, it's a master's level program. And in our department, just to give you a little background, we used to have, many, many years ago, Barbara Yeager came before the town council to get a mental health counselor. And it took a lot of stuff for her to get that. And then we did get it at 19 and a half hours at $35 an hour. And that position was held for several years. And it, like I said, it took a lot of going back and forth. I can't give you all the specifics, but the position was finally put into the budget. And then the position changed a little bit. The schools needed a social worker. So that position, like 4 days were dedicated to school and 1 day was dedicated to the town. So we went from 19 and a half hours down to 8 hours. And then Jess Champagne, who held the position, you know, didn't feel that she was doing justice to the town residents, only being able to help them on Fridays. And at that point, Mary Ann had her licensed clinical or social worker, which is the higher level. And in her job description, it actually says that somebody with that degree is to hold that position. And must have and maintain a valid licensed clinical social worker license from the state of Connecticut, which is a master's degree level. And so she's been in that role. Her hours used to be 25 hours a week, and then it was bumped up under 10 to add the 4 hours in for the clinical counselor.
Okay. What are her duties based on the job description and what she actually covers? So she does more than what's in the job description?
All right. Mary Ann is been with the town for 15 years, and she's a definitely dedicated employee. I mean, I started as the elderly services coordinator, so I worked side by side with her on many things. A lot of the things that she handles are programs such as, I don't know if you're familiar with the Back to School Buddies program, where she helps people who are in financial need to get school supplies for every grade. She does the Giving Tree program, oversees that program. where people who are, again, financially strapped, helps them get gifts for their families. And we have 6 group homes in this town. We take care of them as well as the low-income senior housing. Any application that comes in, our department is like, kind of like a one-stop shop. It takes a lot for people to reach out sometimes to come for help. So when they come in and you're talking to them, they may have come in for energy assistance to get help with their heating. But while you're talking to them, you realize, wow, I can help you get on SNAP, food stamps benefits. I can help you get into the Medicare savings program. I can help you get into this program. So she does a lot of coordinating and helping people, and a lot of people don't know how to use computers. So we sit with them and do the applications online. So she'll do the application for many, many programs. As far as the clinical counseling, this piece really fits with her job, is because she can, if somebody's under crisis, she'll help them. She can provide sessions with them. And if she can't help them and it goes beyond a few sessions, then she's going to reach out to some counselors in town, and she's made some connections with people. So the job is basically helping people keep their heat on, get food, keep your electricity on, many, many services just to help the people who are struggling financially, mentally, in the town.
So if it's supposed to be a 29 hour a week job, why the extra hours? What's driving that?
Can I interrupt? Because I think that we're talking a little bit about, what a job, like the staffing, which I understand that you are looking for more staffing, and I appreciate everything because it's an amazing thing. But I don't know if we're going into too much detail onto the positions itself versus the funding of those positions.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, we set out at the beginning of the budget saying, like, it's not our job to, tell people positions they need. Our job is finance. And,
Well,
I understand the question I had is, this all went in front of the town council. They chose not to add it. Why?
Well, they may have chose not to add it for cost.
I'm asking her what the question, that's my question. I mean, council is supposed to add positions as they need with the first selections, but they had this same presentation and chose not to add it or not to ask for money for it. Why?
Well, actually, I don't know that they actually had this kind of a presentation. I came prepared with a series of questions. What happened at their workshop was a generic question, and I think and Kim's answer surprised everybody that was there.
But not enough to add it into the budget.
Well,
I
okay,
think that-
they didn't, and that's fine.
I want to ask Kim. I want Kim to answer. I mean, she was there. I wasn't there. I would like to hear it directly from her.
I wasn't at the meeting that they did more discussion. I was only at the meeting where it was asked questions. And as.
So you didn't go specifically and ask them to add the position?
No.
I think you answered that question at Steve's first,
Right.
when he asked it, right? And it's because of whatever happened when you started 2 years ago, and then you just never thought to ask to have another person.
Well, or to increase the hours.
Exactly.
Because, when you're told you've got to figure out where the money comes from. Wow. Hey,
So that's the answer,
yeah,
right?
but, realizing that, I've seen, positions, in this town go from part-time to full-time. And I don't know, and it's like, because there's a need. And, I thought tonight that, I'm sitting here, talking about the need, which nobody's asked me, why do we need the position? We need it. And I'm sorry, Mike, I'm just gonna go back to Steve's question real quick, is, the extra hours. I mean, Marianne will be on vacation and a client might call her. And her philosophy is, and I discussed this with her because I said, really not supposed to. But that person might be calling and they're in crisis. And if she could just answer the phone and calm them down, say, I'll be back next week, or if it's that bad, she'll refer it to me. Isn't it more important that we help our citizens in the town instead of, having somebody, in crisis that might go off and hurt themselves? Or, other examples are, heat. It's amazing how many people get the shut off notices, and then on a Friday at 2:00, their power's being shut off. Well, we work like heck to try to get that not to happen so that people have their electricity, they have their heat. So we try to do all these things to help with the basic needs. And it's easy to say, don't do it. But when you're sitting there thinking, if I don't do this, what's going to happen? If I don't take care of this and put that O code on energy assistance, that this person's going to go without heat. They're going to freeze. So therefore, she is doing the extra work because she cares about people in this community and she wants to help them as best she can.
And the other thing is if she's, go ahead.
Quick question, Kim. What we're talking about here is one person from 29 to 35 hours moving from part-time to full-time, correct?
Correct.
Do we know what the cost of that would be?
Well, it'd be the additional hours and benefits.
Benefits.
Like that's the bottom line in this meeting.
But
This will come to.
right,
Your point of needing it, I think everybody understands that part.
right.
It will be a decision between the finance and town council when they do their joint meeting. But they're gonna need a number to know what it is. And just to be clear, it's just that move from 29 to 35, the cost of the additional hours and benefits.
There was actually a number, Ron, that was thrown out, that was put on the
Yeah.
table
I think
during,
that's exactly the right thing though, because again,
During-
like, our job isn't to go into the.
During the
details of
town-
job.
well,
Oh.
so-
It's
so Mark-
really not. It's just, I want to know what the numbers are. The council, if the council and the first elected on Monday say they want to add the position, then I'm going to support adding the position. But if they don't say that on Monday, I'm not going to support that position because it's not really our role. Our role
And
is
I-
to fund the position. So
I'm
that's what I
agree-
would pitch too.
I'm agreeing with Mike and I'm not discounting at all what your department does and what
No,
she
not one
does
bit.
for the citizens
Yeah.
because it is fantastic and she makes herself available and that's an amazing thing. And that's what people need. My family grew up needing it and using it, so I love it. It's just this board, we can't really make decisions like that without.
actually, we can. So I
But
didn't
it's not
want,
the way we've done things over the years, Steve. You know
Okay,
that. And
I
we're not going to make a unilateral decision. That's not fair. Will we talk to council in the first selectman on Monday? Absolutely. And put our
Okay.
heads together. I will do it as a group, but I won't do it unilaterally. That's not right.
okay,
So is this the 18.50 an
That's
hour for the outreach worker that we have here on the budget?
1850.
Which seems like low for what she's doing. I'm just like looking here for outreach worker.
No,
No.
nobody makes
you
1850.
down, what page
It's
are
the
you on?
social services part-time, correct?
Around page one?
Mary Ann's, salary, I believe is in the, bring that with me, I think it's in the social service budget. See, my budget is weird because you have the senior center end of it and then you have
Page
the
160.
social services end of it.
There's a part-time person for the social services.
Yeah, somewhere around page 161,
Yes.
162, something like that is.
We're trying to get a number.
Right here.
Mike, I need to say one thing. The reason I'm asking these questions, It's because the-
15005.
15005 is the county.
Okay, from the 60 something.
Okay,
Oh.
sorry, Steve. I was listening to you and then.
15, yeah, top line,
Um,
page 164 of the budget. Under social services expenditures, the account ending in 15005,
Okay,
social services salary part-time,
gotcha.
which shows no increase in in salaries at all, which is
So the increase is,
that in,
yeah, that contract is
up for,
is up and it's in wage adjustment.
okay, that was another question.
Union?
Okay, so this is in wage adjustment, so that was my number 9.
But I think, I need to see the broken out piece, and I apologize for not bringing it, but under the social service budget is not only, my social services coordinator, but my food pantry coordinator falls under that realm as well. So
She's also part-time?
he is also part.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So there was another comment made by the first selectman at our meeting last Thursday, in which he suggested that possibly the Center for Family Justice could assist residents. And again, my not understanding exactly who does what and whatnot.
I can
Is
speak,
that a rational thing for what she does, for what Mary Ann does?
They're specialized. They deal with, domestic violence, child abuse, sexual abuse. Those social workers are a totally different realm from what the social worker for the town of Monroe does. So,
and the CFJ, that's just, so that is a new thing that the CFJ has a liaison within their organization that is appointed to
From us
or
to them? Yeah.
appointed by the town of Monroe
Right.
for selectmen to work with the CFJ. So they,
CFJ doesn't do what I'm hearing, doesn't do what Mary Ann does.
No.
They are not somebody that would
Again.
make up for our shortfall.
Can I make a suggestion?
Well, hold on a second, Mike. The reason I'm asking these questions is because while there were some discussions at the meetings I've referred to, I don't know the answers to these questions, and B, these questions were not discussed, and C, Kim was not at the meeting of the town council. So I'm trying to get,
I understand what you're trying to
No.
do. Can I
Okay.
just want to ask one quick suggestion
sure,
that might work. Wouldn't it make sense to have her to ask for a meeting with the first selectman either tomorrow or Monday? Talk it through with the first selectman and then have everybody come back on Monday when the council's there, the first selectman could be there and the board could be there and we could all do this together.
would you be willing to?
I already have a meeting set up on Monday, as a matter of fact.
I mean, it just, to me, it makes more sense than to us do this tonight and then have to start over again on Monday when we could all do it together, one shot. Because honestly, like I said, if the first selectman and the council aren't supporting it, I'm not going to just add a position that they're not in support of it. But I would like to have them have the opportunity if we're all seeing that they didn't hear this opportunity.
And that's fine. Okay, I mean, and I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly okay with you not wanting to support it. But if I choose to make a motion, I'm perfectly happy to have everybody else vote it down. But that's the way we would handle it. And again, I understand why you or others may or may not want to add it. But from what I'm learning, and again, I know there was a number put forward at the town council meeting. I don't have it with me. I'll have to go read the minutes, assuming they've been
I think it
published.
was around 58,000. but
Yeah. Do
The,
you remember what it was, Ron?
All in? What did you just say?
I think it was around 58,000, but the part of.
I would say between
Added
50 and 60.
$8,000.
Yeah.
Net,
because
net
the other
new.
thing is being a contractual position, you have to look at what step she would be at, because I believe in the contract, she would have to go to step 12 because she's a licensed and she must maintain her license. So, that stuff I could probably ask, HR and the union on, and see if there's anything.
Well, I really we've now hit almost everything. I just have one. Do you have an estimate of how many families or individuals that she provides service for?
Mary Ann deals with about 125 families on her caseload. But that number, you know, comes in, goes off, comes in, goes off. Because, you know, you might get one person coming in and, you know, after like a few sessions, they drop off. But, you know, significantly over time, it's been about 125.
Okay, thank you. So Mike, what I'd like to do is take your suggestion and ask him to speak to the first selectman. I'd like to make a request of whether it's Ron or the HR department or whomever to come back with what that position.
Numbers, right.
Full-time would be, both, you know, what the bottom line would be and what the net increase would be. So it's two numbers. Right, what would the add be to the budget and again, just document the total cost, and then we can, then I'm happy to have the conversation on Monday night.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll make sure to
And
add
all
it
of
to the
our
agenda
heads
for
can be
Monday.
together and we're
Yeah,
all in the same
exactly.
room.
And I'll
Yeah.
make sure it's on the agenda Monday, so there's no.
Right.
Right.
So,
And
Does
then
that seem
maybe,
fair to everybody?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
also, would she potentially be, would she want benefits? That's like a question that we can kind of also like understand. If we understand the answer to that question, it also changes the total cost for that
Oh,
person.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, but I do
that-
have to
yeah,
offer them,
setting up
contractually have to
something
offer them,
through
even if she says she
contractually.
doesn't want them today, yeah.
Of course, but if she, for instance, is getting it through a spouse or something and she wouldn't change that, that's a good piece of information.
You still, even though like my benefits are through my spouse, still have to offer it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of
You
course.
still have to offer it and you have to budget
Of
for it.
course, of course. Yeah, we have to offer, just thinking
Well,
if we're trying to.
if we
sell it.
offered, and she said she was going to decline it, would we have to budget for it?
Yes, because if she, well, it depends, if she declines it because she's on her husband's benefits, they still pay you, you get, what is that, what do you call it? You get paid
It
out.
would be like a stipend in lieu
Oh,
of.
you get it in lieu of, oh, okay.
Did
So
not.
for example, I have benefits under my husband, so I don't get all of the town benefits. I get a check where they take out taxes, and then I use that to pay my taxes.
I think that's like
Okay.
semantics, because it would probably be silly to not budget for that, especially, you know, if she didn't end up staying for a full fiscal year, right? God forbid, then someone comes on that does need benefits,
Fine,
you know?
Yeah.
So,
no,
Very good.
that's fine.
While I'm here, can I ask a question?
Sure.
When I read the article that Bill wrote that apparently generated from the question I was asked, I did see that they were gonna make a donation to the Center for Family Justice.
They did. Yeah,
Did.
yes, the
So-
town council approved we put in $10,000 as the donation, and then at a subsequent town council meeting, they appointed the liaison who was already on the board. I guess he was from Monroe and he was already on the board, and I cannot remember the gentleman's name.
remember his name either.
But yes, so now because the town requires, if we're making a donation like that we have a formal representative. So that was done by the council.
Can I just make a quick statement?
Sure.
While I think that's admirable and everything else, you know, to do that, I don't know if you all know that my department runs on donations that we have to raise to help people keep their heat on, to help put food on their tables, and to help buy stuff for the Social Service Exchange Fund. The town has not funded any of those. We may take care of the food pantry, the building and the employees, but buying all the food we have to raise that money. The Project Warmth, which is a fund that we use when other funds are exhausted to help people keep their heat on. People do fundraisers to help us out with that. Also the Social Service Exchange Fund, where we buy the gifts and the items for the schools. We have to fund raise that all ourselves. So I would appreciate if in the future, anyone wants to make a motion to make donations, I would hope that we could keep these in-house for our residents in town. I understand, CFJ, don't get me wrong, I think what they do is great, but if you go on their website, and they did steal my food pantry coordinator, and one of the fundraisers they have is a food truck and craft festival. They've got several fundraisers. And they do get lots and lots of money. And I think it's wonderful, but I don't, and they have paid people to do their fundraising, whereas I don't. You know, we rely on the generosity of people in the town. And then, you know, I wish I could clone myself to do more because I need to start fundraising for Project Warmth. But I'm writing 3 grants right now to get money for the food pantry, to get money for the senior center, and to try to get us a new bus. So I just putting that out there that, you know, in the future, if you could think about it, that would be a really wonderful thing to help with my.
Yeah, I can't speak. I don't know how this whole thing started with the council, but what I do know is when they approved modifying the budget for this year, they discussed that their real goal would be to do something to write grants or do some other kind of activity that would then the money could flow rather than having the taxpayer pay for it. So, you know, they did make that a point. So, you know, take it for what it was. This was like 1 year, you know, or at least at this point, it's a 1 year thing.
Kim, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it. Have a good night. You had to
Thank
sit through
you
all the
all.
roads.
Thank you, Kim.
So Mike, I've got one more thing.
Okay, what do you got?
So following our meeting last Thursday, well, everybody knows that our meeting last Thursday, Joe Cobbs, the superintendent of schools, spoke to us about how to work some numbers in his budget. And within the list of things, he categorized things in red, meaning he really needed them. They were critical. Things in green, which he was very comfortable having them removed. And then he had 2 that were in yellow that he indicated he had some concerns with. One of which was the software renewal for $10,000. Professionally, I deal with, although it's corporate, big computer stuff, I understand software licensing, renewals and life cycles and all that stuff. So I decided to pick up the phone and talk to Paul Kors, who I think everybody knows is the director of IT for the town and the board. And I wanted to get some more information from Paul about this. And he basically told me 3 things, and I'm paraphrasing here, but his concern, number one, a lot of these licenses are based on the number of students. And as we've been growing the student population, he's concerned that, you know, we may end up owing some money. Second, he believes that we will be required, they will be required to do some true ups with the vendors over the course of the year. And so he's concerned that if you do a true up and you find that, you know, we've been short X number of students, that will cost us, the town, the Board of Ed, money. And then the third thing he is seeing, which should not be of a surprise to anybody, year over year rates, renewal rates are coming in higher, generally speaking, than historically. And so, you know, I see the same thing professionally with software. So that doesn't surprise me in the least. And so basically I ended up by asking him, okay, tell me what you think the level of risk is with taking this 10,000 out. And he said medium to high. I've found Paul to be a straight shooter. I think the work that he's done for the board and working with us over the years, you know, like I say, he's been a straight shooter with us. We've worked well together. And as a result, what I would like to do is at least pencil in right now the restoration of the $10,000 for software renewals.
You're on mute.
I don't have a problem with that.
You didn't have a problem with it.
Anybody here?
I don't
No, I don't
know.
have a problem with it either.
We've got agreement across the table
Tell
here.
Heidi to get her pencil out there.
So, you know Heidi.
I'm ready.
All right, thank
So
you, Heidi.
Heidi, so Heidi, we're adding back in an additional $10,000 being restored to the Board of Education line. Last week, we had added back in 116,600. So there's-
Was that a formal add back in?
yeah, that what he wanted penciled in. Yeah. I think she updated.
Yeah, we
everything.
had done a batch.
No, I don't think,
From the last.
I don't think we had
meeting, and-
touched the base budget last week. So
I think
Well,
we
we
just
talked about
talked
it.
about
I
it.
think you just talked about it here.
We pencil,
Yeah.
pencil terminology.
Well, the direction was to Heidi to pencil it in, so I thought she updated the file.
Okay, well, it's only.
I can't see.
So Heidi, the numbers, you could just add them within the cell, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so 10,000, 22,100, 25,000, 29,500, and 40,000.
See that even with my glasses.
That totals, what's that total? 126?
We have to go sit like right in front of it.
26.6?
Oh, you're in the third row.
There you go.
There we go.
26.6. Is that,
126.6 is what I expected.
okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. We have anything else?
So, Mike,
You wanna
these are
just give
some
us
numbers.
Go ahead, yeah,
Yeah, this is Ron. Okay for me to speak?
please, go ahead.
Okay, so I put together a spreadsheet with some proposed adjustments that I would like this board to entertain for pushing out the wage adjustment for police, some insurance
You mean
adjustments,
pushing them out, you mean applying?
pushing out the wage
Oh,
adjustment
out to the thing.
out to the police. Yeah. So, and some new information, some adjusted information for debt service.
Let's see.
So I could,
Check it out. You have numbers?
yeah, so I do. I've got some hard copies here. And if you want, maybe I could have Heidi, well, what I'll do is I'll talk through them. And then Heidi's got them on the budget. So starting with human resources. So what we did was we went through and reanalyzed wage adjustment, subtracted out. It's not an exact match. Again, it was a calculation done a while ago, but we calculated out what we need in wage adjustment. So the wage adjustment would go after extracting anything police related would go from 981 to 449. So that's a reduction of 532,176. HR insurance, we went through and spent some time and we plan on spending more time over the next week. So this isn't done or something I would want you guys to necessarily vote on today. But where we're looking at is a reduction in health and primarily health insurance of 278,837. And then
Can I just bounce off of that for a second?
Sure.
So we're entering these numbers in the spreadsheet. Can we make them a certain color? So it's like something that we have to come back to?
stands out in this. Yeah. So Heidi, do you want to just highlight the columns?
That way we know like we're all on the same page about the Board of Ed stuff. And then these adjustments, we still.
Everything is in the Board of
Everything's
Finance
gonna be in one
column.
column.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah. So,
Maybe it's just the way my brain works.
sure. Do you want them all highlighted?
You want them all highlighted?
The ones that, no, just the ones we're talking about
Okay.
right now.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh,
So,
just the ones tonight. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just these ones that you're listing right now.
okay.
The Ron's listing, okay.
Okay. So in scrolling down to police personnel.
Wait a minute, you didn't do the Medicare?
Okay. So that's the payroll taxes related to the,
Okay,
Wages.
yeah, pushed out from wage adjustment related to the.
so that goes up
wages.
because the wages went up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Police personnel. So again, this is pushing out and Incorporated in this is the police pension, and there's a couple things going on with the police pension. The rate that we budgeted was actually too low. We received it after, I think the budget was with council. We knew there was going to be an adjustment. So there was a slight, that rate comes from the state's actuaries who, the actuaries for the CMERS plan.
When is that changing?
It's changing July 1st.
Oh, so it's fiscal year 25?
Yes.
Okay.
So it hits 100% of it
Yeah.
hits its budget.
So all those salary lines that are described there, so it's salary uniform line increases 422,324. The holiday line, 21,506. The police salary overtime line, 20,874. And the overtime tactical line, 6,079. And the pension line, 113,458. And just to remind everyone, the police contract, there's 3 years increase in there. It was
Year contract? Okay.
well, it had expired. Heidi, I don't have what did it expire 2 years ago?
It expired, I believe, June 30th of 22.
22.
So it's retro.
It's retro. We're calculating the retros now as we speak, and we retro. You're dealing with a retro through 6/30 of 23. You're dealing with a current year retro, and we'll be projecting at they'll get their
The out years are the out years.
this year. Yeah. And then debt service, we'll be looking to issue bonds in July. These debt service numbers, they're small adjustments, but this is newer information. The old information was a couple months old, so they're not big adjustments, but it's just better information.
How big is that issue going to be?
It is going to be about 5.5 million, and these are for already approved projects.
Correct.
You know what? I have the
Yeah.
5,570,000.
5,570,000. Okay. Yeah, because we bonded in like October and we bonded stuff last February. Yeah.
And so the net of all those adjustments that I just went through was a reduction to the budget of 148,806.
What's the bond premium? Why is that declined? Or is
So
that up? I mean, whatever.
what is the bond premium? It's when bonds are issued at
No, why is it?
by what?
Okay, the premium just is because we're issuing the bonds themselves.
Yeah,
It's never accounted for.
It's
Okay.
the bonds are issued at the actual rate that the bidder is paying is less than the coupon
Coupon rate.
that the bonds.
Yeah, less than-
Okay.
Okay. So we do all of that and we come out to the good.
So I just want to make sure I understand the wage adjustments. So we're saying that we're moving 449,000 over to the police, and then we don't need the rest?
So
That's how we're coming up with this.
what wage adjustment is going down from is 981 to the 449.
Okay,
So that's what's left.
that's what's left.
What's coming out of it?
Our other open,
Yeah, what's coming out is the 532.
Okay, gotcha. So that's.
and it's not an exact match because we recalculated it, and so there is some,
Okay, so we've still got 449,000 in wage adjustments budgeted. And what contracts do we have outstanding? We still have some contracts being negotiated.
yeah, so it's clerical and highway, I believe, Heidi?
Yes.
And then
And
the non-union.
non-union part-time would also be in there, and the minimum wage increase.
Clerical, highway, and non-union.
Part-time and minimum wage increase too.
Yes, okay.
Part-time is different from minimum wage increase.
Yes.
So part-time, do you have, oh, I'm sorry, Heidi.
Yeah, go ahead, finish your question.
So do they get the standard that the union, the clerical union gets?
The part-time, this is actually a question for HR.
Okay.
But it does go out to the departments for them to review the rates. And then they come back and make any suggestions.
So it's not just blanket.
It could be, or, and maybe a department head feels that they, a job, they've added more to their job or whatever they're doing to get maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
And we go by the current minimum wage increase in there. So now I guess the state is proposing increases in January. So we have a half a year to, accrue for in the wage adjustment.
That's unknown.
Yeah, yeah, we don't know what that rate's gonna be.
Okay. Mike, I've got a question. I don't know if we had it specifically for tonight. Do we want to spend any time tonight talking about investment income?
I think we'll talk about revenue another night.
I was just gonna say, I think we're gonna leave revenue for as late as possible because
Okay,
I want to do a little bit of homework before we go through revenue.
yeah, I was
Because
just thinking of the one
one of the
item.
things I'm gonna throw out to Frank is I want to not only look at this year's revenue, I want us to do a little bit of forward thinking, and I know it's a long shot, but one of the things I'm thinking about is if we ramped up his revenue for this year, I think we're all probably under the same thought process that a year from now, rates are going to be considerably lower. And, that's going to be a dramatic effect on a drop off. So I just want us to look forward a little bit and say, hey, right now we're earning 5% and we're getting X dollars because of that. If rates were at 3% a year from now, this is what the pay down or the use of the fund balance. I want to do a little bit of an analysis of understanding what our forward looking is. We've talked about it for years of multi-year budgeting. I really want us from a revenue standpoint to look at it and say, okay, expectation is this for this year, but based on everything we know today, a year from now, we could be 40% less, which would affect the mill rate and everything else at X level. I just want us to try to I really want to look at a 30,000 foot view of the revenue, because again, let's be honest, it's becoming a much more important part, because it's so much more dramatic than it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Hey, Mike, it's Frank. I'll be prepared Monday, or I'm prepared today to tell you where I think we can go in terms of increase in.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd love to do it Monday because again, we got the council there. Let's take advantage of everyone having a big room.
Monday is absolutely fine. And what I will do is I will take that model and I will run it out for fiscal year 25-26 and give you a view of that. And what I'll use to set the parameters, the Federal Reserve interest rate dot plot actually goes out into that time frame. And rather than look at any other sources, I'll take the high and the low from the dot plot and use that as the high and the low for the year. I
love that. Perfect. Yeah, I think that's the right approach. So we can all look at it. And again, I want to spend a little bit of time thinking about it over the weekend and just be, because I want us to be looking, not just 6 months out, but 18 months out, 24 months out. Let's really think about it long term and understand the effects of what those numbers will hit. Because again, it's becoming significant dollars. But as our fund balance comes down and as our rates come down, it could drop pretty quickly. And, we all know what happens when that stuff surprises us. Terry will be shooting himself again.
Yeah, I share your concern about the out year. And I would have made that comment tonight or Monday night that as we look at what we're going to increase it to for fiscal year 24-25, we have to be cognizant that it is going to come down and that will impact. It's not going to be a flat thing, you know, in the next year where we can count on that same level of return.
Well, you have some numbers now?
I do.
Can we just spend a few minutes and let him put those out to us, Mike? Because
I mean, again, we
otherwise-
can, but I'd rather do it with everybody in the room. I mean, I'd rather have all of us there, but I mean, it doesn't, he can certainly share them with us. He can
Well,
email them to
my
us,
only
or he
thought-
can go, you know.
my only thought process is if he gives it to us on Monday, then we don't have another meeting between Monday and Thursday when we're voting. And
True,
if
but,
there's something
I mean,
for us,
again, go ahead, that's fine.
It's up to you all.
yeah, I'd like to hear him because if there's something we want to think about I mean, you said think about it over the weekend. We have nothing to think about until he tells us.
All right, that's fine. Go for it.
Okay. Hey, Heidi, can you go ahead and shoot out then a copy of the spreadsheets to Mike and to, I think, Rebecca's on the phone?
Yes, just give me a minute.
Yep.
I had them up. I don't have them up anymore for some reason.
And I'll walk you through this pretty quick. I'm known for my brevity.
Master Blaster.
Drop a pen or something.
Yeah.
Ron, can you hit share again? Because oh, never mind. I think I can do this. Hold on.
Yep, I'm coming down.
Here we go.
Yeah, you're still a co-host, Heidi. You should be good.
I'm trying.
You know what? Thank you, Frank. I'm good. I know you gave it to, I think I've got it.
Okay. First thing I will say about this is not meant to be exact. It's meant to provide direction. Okay? When I did this in December, I guess, when we did the initial input where we came out with 1.6 million, we were looking at between 6 and 7 interest rate drops this year and more the following year. We're certainly not there now. If you look at the bottom of this, you'll see this is iteration 9. So I've been adjusting it as we've gone along. What you have here is a scenario which is showing 3 different approaches. The first one, which you see, which is highlighted with the orange there. Well, first of all, the assumption is 5.25%, which would be our starting point. The one that I did in December, it was 4%. So a significant difference right there from that 1.6. The first column basically says interest rates are going to remain flat at that starting point of 5.25. We know that's not going to happen during the year. Interest rates will come down. The question is how much. The one to the far right in green is more aggressive rate drops. That says there's a 0.25 basis point drop every month during the course of that year for a total of 2.75 basis point drop throughout the year. The middle one is probably the more realistic. That takes into account 6 rate drops of 25 basis points over the course of the year. That's 1.5%. Now, Steve, you had asked to get some additional input. I did reach out to Janie. I reached out to Fiducian. Janie was looking at probably over the course of the year, somewhere around 1.2515 in terms of a rate drop. Fiducian was saying 0.75 over the course of that year.
Wow.
I talked about the Fed interest rate dot plot. For 2024, their range, and this is the 19 members of the Fed, the 11 regional presidents, the chair, the vice chair, and some of those ancillary members, they all plotted. And this was March just a month ago. For 2024, they were ranging between 4.25% and 5.25. For 25, they were looking at 2.5 to 5.25. These are the people who are going to make the rates. So if we think we can get the rate exact, we're not gonna do it. So it's pretty big. I think one thing we can say is that there will be rate cuts, but they're gonna stay higher for longer and the reductions are gonna come slower. Okay? So if you look at all of those, from my perspective, I think staying at 5.25 is not realistic. I don't think we're gonna come down 25 basis points every month, right? Which would get you to that 2.3. Now, starting at 5.25, which is slightly lower, not much than where we are right now. It's 5.42 is what we're getting on the stiff rate, okay? So, and again, the 5.25 was for me mathematically, it was easier to calculate on round numbers. So if we do that, that comes in at about 2.6. Where I would be comfortable in terms of where we're going is in that 2.5 to 2.6 range, which means it gives you somewhere between 900 and $1 million to do it. I would not be comfortable going up as far as the 3, which is where we're probably going to end up this year, right? It's still a significant increase year over year. We're going from 1.3 up to 2.5, 2.6, depending on what you want to do.
So
But
2.5 splits basically is splitting the difference between the center and the right column.
and I'm good, but this is the basic. Now, the next page that you have there, this is where those numbers, because one of the things I did from the time I did it back in December, I added a seasonalization to it. So it takes into account what the cash flow is across the year. And Chris from Ron's team, Heidi's team, actually provided me closing numbers, and they represent numbers that started April of 23 to March of 24. So the most recent numbers we have for that 12-month period. If you look at the next page, that shows you all the different categories in which it came from. Mike, you had asked for something last time, because I said I didn't include it. You don't have the second page now? Oh,
No, oh, I thought you meant a third page.
no. This
Okay,
page.
yeah, the detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, you asked for how much am I not including? Because I said things like the Lillian Wilton Fund, the WMM&R, though we do receive interest on it, it doesn't go to our thing. So at the very bottom, in the pink column, you'll see each month how much is not included in the interest rate calculation. And part of that is also because those numbers move in and out of some of those categories very quickly. And again, when I did the calculation, I took one number for a month, divided it by 12 to get the interest rate. I don't take into account, it's here, you know, it's 9 million one day, it's 7 million another day. So there's some room for some flexibility there. But this is what I came up with here. You guys make the recommendation in terms of what you want to do. For the next meeting, Mike, I can provide a variation of the income summary for 26. And like I said, I'll use the dot plot from the Federal Reserve for their numbers.
That would be awesome.
for
Yeah,
526.
because I just want us to be able to look at that going forward. Because again, you know, just like we don't budget 100% of tax revenues, we don't budget, you know what I mean?
Right.
I want us to be a little bit conservative just so we don't kill ourselves the following year.
Anybody have questions on it?
This is amazing.
This is great.
This makes perfect sense.
Pretty straightforward Excel spreadsheet.
What was the number that we had in
1.6,
current 1.6?
1.6.
So if we took the center column just as is, we're talking about $1 million.
Rounded. To a round number. Well, you said as is.
No, as is written on the piece of paper.
So 26 on.
So you've got 2.6 million, 2.652. We had 1.6 in the budget.
Yes,
So I'm saying we're roughly a million
Yes.
more.
yes,
That's all. That's all.
yes, yes.
And I could make a very good argument coming down to 2,500 or 2.5 million for any number of reasons, but I wouldn't go above the 2 million 6.
Not from what
No,
we just learned.
well, we just learned. No, I mean, you
Quite
know,
frankly, we're better off having a little extra at the end of the year as opposed to scrambling for where we're gonna find the funds.
yeah, but I mean, with the inflation numbers yesterday and or whatever
Yeah.
day it came out.
Well,
That sort of said, yeah, no, we're not gonna see a rate cut anytime.
I did a variation of this yesterday, and my starting point yesterday was, what did I do here? At 5% as opposed to 5.25, and I handed it off to Heidi. And I went back and I was listening to comments from two of the Fed presidents,
Yeah.
regional Fed presidents, and I said, we're definitely not getting that June one.
No,
And we may only get two going out into the rest of the year. So I took it down another 25 basis points. Took it up.
the way they are not doing what everybody thought they would be doing, yeah. I would.
Anyway, that's it. You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was worthwhile hearing, frankly. So,
Mike, you're muted. I don't know if,
Sorry. Yes. No, this is wonderful, and I love, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So, again, if we can sleep on this over the weekend, and then we'll pencil this in on Monday. It sounds like we're gonna be here for a while on Monday.
you just put it under your pillow, it'll all absorb right up through. and
I
you'll be
will
good
put
to
it under
go
my
on Monday.
pillow, which is what I do with Frank's numbers all the time. No, he's really done a great job with this, and
I
No,
got
it'll be
nothing
awesome.
else,
So,
I got
I
nothing
appreciate
else for tonight, Mike.
I got nothing else for today. I love that. Let's
All
do
in
it.
the night.